Hidden in the Santa Cruz Mountains is a roadside attraction called the Mystery Spot. It has operated in this patch of forest since 1939, inviting tourists into a cabin where the laws of physics seem to have been abandoned. The building was constructed 40 degrees off true center, providing the foundation for every effect inside. The surrounding redwoods play a secondary role, hiding the landscape, which removes the natural horizon and deprives your brain of a stable reference point. This creates a direct biological conflict. The fluid in your inner ear correctly senses the incline, but your eyes, lacking a horizon, process the tilted room as level ground. The Mystery Spot is a unique environment, meticulously engineered to make the human brain's spatial processing completely fail. When your vision and your balance disagree, the brain chooses to believe the visual lie. Marcus was an architecture blogger who studied visual optical illusions. He relied on objective logic to decode reality, viewing the spot as a case study in how the body is tricked. He spent the afternoon with a guide named Cheryl. She had worked inside these tilted rooms since 1982, spending 4 decades standing in a space that tells the human body it is wrong about which way is up. Cheryl noticed how quickly Marcus was reacting to the illusions. She explained that some people's brains eventually stop fighting the conflict and begin to accept the skewed perspective as their new baseline. The risk of an optical illusion isn't the momentary confusion. It is the terrifying possibility that your physical body might eventually accept the distorted environment as a permanent reality. When Marcus left the exhibit, the forest looked too deliberate. The trees seemed organized into an artificial grid. That night, he had a dream that he was standing in a room with strangers. He saw a young child, a very tall man, and an elderly woman, all arranged in a line. As he walked down the line, their heights began to change. The tall man shrank, while the child grew. By the time he reached the end, every person in the room shared his exact proportions. Marcus woke up in the dark and spent 20 minutes trying to understand the size of his own limbs. He lay there moving his arms and legs, unable to determine if they were too long or too short. The time he spent in the dark struggling to feel the ends of his own arms suggests the rules of the spot had transitioned from a visual trick into a physiological change. He returned to the spot the next morning. He told himself he needed cleaner photos to explain the trick, but he was actually looking for a way to make the dream make sense. As he looked through his camera lens, he noticed something he had missed. The angles in the building weren't just tilted, they were repeating in a cycle. Through the viewfinder, the perspective shifted. The architecture appeared to be slowly rotating, moving the floor and the walls into new configurations. Marcus pulled out his phone to check the previous day's photos. He zoomed in on a window and found a tall, indistinct figure standing deep in the trees, an area with no trails. When he looked up from his phone, the figure was no longer outside. It was standing inside the hall with him. The entity occupied a space that shouldn't have been possible. It appeared to be 30 feet away, while simultaneously standing right next to him, positioned perpendicular to the wall. Marcus fled. As he ran toward the parking lot, the trail began stretching. The distance behind him grew longer than the path ahead, and his own limbs felt as though they were warping to match the trees. Biology and physics offered no protection. He was trapped in a space where the rules of geometry were replaced by something his mind couldn't map. The next morning, a ranger found Marcus's visitor pass sitting on the dry asphalt of the parking lot. The pass was dated 3 days earlier. Although the weather had been clear, the laminate was warped and dripping with water, as if it had been kept in a place of extreme humidity. When the ranger suggested a search party, Cheryl told him not to bother. Marcus wasn't missing. In Cheryl's view, Marcus was exactly where he belonged. He had finally adapted to the environment's true physical laws. The Mystery Spot functions as a mirror that removes the assumption of human proportion. It suggests that our understanding of our own bodies is a comfortable fiction, maintained by a stable horizon. It leaves us to consider a disturbing possibility. The way we see ourselves is a fabrication, and we are currently failing to see the true angle of the world around us.